Hey everyone, James Azar here with CyberHub Engage. Good morning, happy Wednesday. We are live on YouTube. For all you YouTubers live, good morning. For all of those listening on your favorite podcast listening platform, we miss you on YouTube where you can interact with me live as we do this and so much more. It's your daily cyber briefing. So let's not waste any more precious minutes, seconds, and time, and let's get right into this. Today is Wednesday, January 15th, 2020, and here are our headlines for today. Urgent notice from the NSA, patch your Windows 10 systems now. P&N Bank discloses a data breach, critical bugs in WordPress plugins, the United Nations has been targeted with the Emotet malware, and CISA releases a test tool for the Citrix ADC, or as it's been trending on Twitter, Citrix. And now for your daily cyber briefing brought to you by our friends at CyberHub USA. Check them out for the virtual CISO services, auditing, cyber program development, cyber awareness trainings, and so much more. Go to cyberhubusa.co for more information and engage with them there. And now let's get into our leading story for today's daily cyber briefing. The United States National Security Agency started a new chapter after discovering and reporting a Microsoft vulnerability tracked as CVE 2020-0601 that's impacting Windows 10 and Windows Server systems. In a phone conference, NSA Director of Cybersecurity Annie Neuberger said that this is the first time the agency decided to publicly disclose a security vulnerability to a software vendor. We thought hard about it, according to Director Neuberger in a statement. When Microsoft asked us, can we attribute this vulnerability to NSA, we gave it a great deal of thought, and then we elected to do so, and here is why, she says. Part of building trust is showing the data. It's hard for entities to trust that we indeed take this seriously, and ensuring that vulnerabilities can be mitigated is an absolute priority. Neuberger also said during the media call that the agency will make efforts towards becoming an ally to the cybersecurity community and private sector entities, and will begin to share vulnerability data with its partners instead of accumulating it and using it in future offensive operations. MSRC's Principal Security Program Manager Michelle Gruen added that we believe in coordinated vulnerability disclosure as proven industry best practice to address security vulnerability, and continued to say through a partnership between security researchers, vendors, CVDs ensures vulnerabilities are addressed prior to being made public. NSA's new approach to building trust with the public and its partners redefines the agency's cybersecurity mission, as U.S. Army General and NSA Director Paul Nakasone stated back in July of last year. The Cybersecurity Directorate will reinvigorate our white hat missions, opening the door to partners and customers on a wide variety of cybersecurity efforts. General Nakasone continued to say at the time it will also build on our past successes, such as Russia's small group, to operationalize our threat intelligence, vulnerability assessment, and cyber defense expertise to defend our adversaries in cyberspace. General Nakasone, now followed by Director Neuberger, both have really elevated the NSA's cooperation with the private and public sector, something that wasn't there during the before General Nakasone took over the NSA. The CVE 2020-0601 spoofing vulnerability reported by the NSA affects the Windows Crypto API and is caused by the way elliptic curve cryptography certificates are validated. The NSA says that the certificate validation vulnerabilities allows an attacker to undermine how Windows verifies cryptographic trust and can enable remote code execution. CVE 2020-0601 hasn't yet been exploited in the wild, according to Microsoft Security Advisory, and the U.S. agency advises users and organizations to install the patches released as part of Microsoft's patch Tuesday yesterday as soon as possible to block attackers from defeating trusted network connections and deliver executable code while appearing as legitimately trusted entities. The vulnerability is one example of our partnership with the security research community, where a vulnerability was privately disclosed and an update released to ensure customers were not put at risk. The NSA Security Advisory also comes with mitigation measures for systems where installing the patches released by Microsoft today isn't immediately possible, as discussed during our podcast yesterday and some of the conversations we've been having on LinkedIn and Twitter. Patching isn't always as easy as just updating it, and so let's talk about that a little bit. properly configure and manage your TLS inspection proxies, independently validate TLS certificates from external entities, and reject invalid or untrusted certificates, protecting your endpoints from certificates that attempt to exploit this vulnerability is key. Ensure that certificate validation is enabled for TLS proxies to limit exposure to this class of vulnerabilities, and review logs for signs of exploitation. Mind your P's, mind your Q's, cross your T's, dot your I's. Put some extra eyes on this until this vulnerability can be patched on your end. A lot of noise about this on social media over the last 24 hours. So you've got a ton of resources out there. Use them or contact your local CISA office for additional help. And now for a data breach alert. P&N Bank is informing customers of a data breach in which personally identifiable information and sensitive account information was exposed. On Wednesday, a security researcher going under the Twitter handle VRKnickknack pinged Troy Hunt, who will be on our CyberHub Engage podcast sometime in February, the operator of the Have I Been Pawned search engine, with a notice that he had received from the bank. P&N Bank, a division of Police and Nurses Limited and operating in Western Australia, sent a notice which warned of an information breach occurring through its customer relationship management platform. The financial service organization said certain personal information appears to have been accessed as a result of online criminal activity. On or around December 12th, the bank was performing a server upgrade, and it is at this point the cyber attack took place. It is believed that a company P&N Bank hired to provide hosting was the entry point at this time. P&N Bank says that names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, customers' numbers, ages, account numbers, account balances may have been compromised. Information that could be included in our records of interactions as well with customers may have also been leaked. Passwords, social security numbers, tax file numbers, driver's license or passport details, credit card numbers, and dates of birth have not been included in this breach, nor has any other sensitive information such as medical data. It is not yet known how many customers have been affected by this breach. The company said in a statement, upon becoming aware of the attack, we immediately shut down the source of the vulnerability. P&N Bank is keen to emphasize in the notice that at present there is no evidence of customer accounts or funds being compromised, and is treating this information breach extremely seriously. P&N Bank says it is working with the West Australian Police Force and other federal authorities in the investigation of this specific breach. Before we move on to our next story, I want to invite you to join us in Dallas for our live podcast February 4th. Make sure you can go to our website right now, cyberhubengage.com. Tickets go on sale this Friday, so you want to go and subscribe so that you can be the first to know and get your tickets for our live podcast with Mark Haupt, CISO at DataBank, and Patrick Benoit, two fan favorites on our podcast. Patrick is the BISO at CBRE, and we will have some special guests on there as well. So make sure you go get your tickets. And if you're a CISO interested in attending the CyberHub Engage private CISO roundtable the next day, you can also do so by contacting myself or Micah, or going to our website at cyberhubengage.com. And now to our next story. 2 WordPress plugins, Infinite WordPress Client and WordPress Time Capsule, contain serious security vulnerabilities that have opened up an estimated 320,000 websites to exploits. The pair, used to manage multiple WordPress websites from one server and create backups for files and database entries when updated, are issued, were examined by cybersecurity researchers from WebArcs, who found logical issues in the code that allow you to log into an administrator account without having a password. Infinite WordPress is active on over 300,000 websites, and WordPress Time Capsule is active on at least 20,000 domains, according to the WordPress plugins and library. On Tuesday, the team said that logical issues impacting Infinite WordPress versions below 1.9.4.5 means that it is possible to use a post request payload with JSON and base64 encoding to bypass password requirements and log in by knowing only the username of an administrator. In WordPress Time Capsule versions below 1.21.16, an issue in a functioning line can be exploited by adding a crafted string in a raw post request to call a function that grabs all available administrator accounts and log in as the first admin on the list. WebArcs reported the vulnerabilities to the developer of both plugins on 7th of January, who responded quickly and pushed out a software update only a day later. In order to resolve these issues, the developer tweaked action codes, removed several function calls, and added payload authenticity checks. It is important for webmasters to apply these patches, WebArcs says, as it can be hard to block this vulnerability with general firewall rules. Because the payload is encoded, and a malicious payload would not look much different compared to legitimate looking payloads of both plugins. The developer was very fast to react and released the patches on the very next day after our initial report. The team added, "It's always great to see developers who are taking action quickly and letting their customers know about the issue to help people update to a more secure version as soon as possible." So if you're using a WordPress site and any one of those tools, or if you don't know, contact your web administrator now and make sure you get these things patched. To our fourth story of the day, where pretending to be the permanent mission of Norway, the Emotet operators performed a targeted phishing attack against email addresses associated with users at the UN. Yesterday, the Emotet Trojan roared back to life after a 3-week holiday vacation, right at the end of the Orthodox New Year. Wonder where they celebrate that. While Emotet's normal spam campaigns pretend to be fake accounting reports, delivery notices, and invoices, the malware operators had something special in mind for the UN. In a sample of the phishing email shared by email security firm Cofense, the Emotet operators pretend to be representatives of Norway at the United Nations in New York, who state that there is a problem with an attached signed agreement. According to Cofense, this phishing campaign had highly specific targeting and was seen being sent to 600 unique email addresses at the UN. The email states that the representatives of Norway found a problem with a signed agreement and that the recipient should review it to learn the issue. Attached to these emails is a Microsoft Word document that starts with doc_01_13 that pretends to be the signed agreement being sent by the permanent mission of Norway. While there was room for Emotet to send a more convincing Word document template, they instead sent the same one that is used for all mail spam campaigns. This template pretends to be a warning that the document only available for desktop or laptop versions of Microsoft Office Word, and then prompts the user to click on Enable Editing or Enable Content to view the document. If a user opens the document and enables its content, malicious Word macros will be executed that downloads and installs Emotet on that device. Emotet will now run in the background while sending out spam emails to other victims. Eventually, Emotet will also install other payloads such as a trick bot, which would be when things get really bad for that specific workstation. When Emotet is installed in a machine, one of the malware payloads that is invariably installed is the TrickBot Trojan. The TrickBot Trojan will attempt to harvest data from the computer, such as cookies, login credentials, files from the computer, and possibly spread to other computers on the network. After the harvesting of information is finished, TrickBot is known to open a reverse shell back to the operators of the Ryok ransomware, something we discussed yesterday. These operators will begin to infiltrate the network, gain admin credentials, and ultimately deploy Ryok so that it encrypts every device on the network. This is particularly worrisome for a UN network, as ransomware operators are known to steal data before encrypting files, which could expose extremely sensitive diplomatic or government information, and we're heading into an election year. And to our final story of the day, where the Department of Homeland Security CISA released a public domain tool designed to help security staff to test if their organizations are vulnerable to the ongoing attacks that might target the CVE 2019 19781 security flaw impacting the Citrix Application Delivery Controller, the NetScaler ADC, and the Citrix Gateway NetScaler Gateway products. CISA has released a utility that enables users and administrators to test whether their Citrix Application Delivery Controller and Citrix Gateway software is susceptible to the CVE 19781 vulnerability, according to the agency. CISA also strongly recommends that all organizations to review the CERT and the CCU pound 619785 vulnerability note and the Citrix CTX 267027 security bulletin to apply the described mitigation measures until new versions of the software will be released. On our screen now, you can see the dates where we anticipate the software release date. This was a table courtesy of our friends at Bleeping Computer. The vulnerability makes it possible for unauthenticated attackers to perform an arbitrary code execution via directory traversal if successfully exploited. Several working proof of concept exploits for the CVE vulnerability are already publicly available. 2 days earlier, and going on this week, we've reported about ongoing scans for vulnerable Citrix hosts following warnings from security researchers. This is not something that any of you should be ignoring. If you're not in charge of your Citrix systems at work, please go and talk to your Citrix administrators and escalate this up or down the chain if need be. This is something to be taken extremely seriously. That's it for a daily cyber briefing today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with so much more tomorrow. Until then, I appreciate the fact that you're subscribing and sharing and helping us grow this podcast each and every single day. We'll be back with so much more tomorrow. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday and hump day and stay cyber safe.